Hello, everybody. It is July the 23rd, and we are live. Ferzine's in the house. Good to see you, Ferzine. It's time for her favorite call of the week, and I hope you'll love my new background. We're going to be talking about that a lot today, about MI, where AI meets mobility. MI, there's MI for that. You're going to hear a lot about that later. It is it is undoubtedly the biggest development in global mobility. Certainly this year, if not this decade. It is changing so much, and this is just the start. There's so much we're going to talk to you about that. We've got a great show for you today. Apart from talking about MI, we've also got backstage the wonderful Suresh Balan from HCL Tech, who's going to be talking about how HCL Tech is driving global mobility efficiency at scale. And they have a fascinating program, a large program, and it's really interesting. Suresh is going to be there together with Pankaj Bhatia from Benivo. We've also got backstage, it is so exciting, we've got Charlotte Wills from Fragment, who's going to give us an update on workforce planning, and we've got Julie Barron from Vialto, who's going to be giving us an update on that big beautiful tax bill over there in the US. So it's a fascinating show today, but you know how it works, everybody. Join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you are, what's going on in your world. We want to hear all about everything that's going on. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on YouTube. We are also available on Spotify if you want to hear us as a podcast. And if you want your CPE codes, we have CPE codes for you. Oh, so many CPE codes. We've got CPE codes. Let's put them up here. If you want them from Worldwide ERC, there they are. If you want them from HRCI or SURE, many thanks to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage who organised that. Those are the codes there. So that's today's show, and I won't waste too much time before we get into it because there's so much to talk about. But I do just want to tell you about what we've got next week as well. Next week is actually our last week before our summer break. We always take August off. And next week, as we are thinking about vacations, we've got a great topic for you today, next week rather. Next week, it is called Managing Immigration Anxiety with the wonderful Patty Warner from Ingram. Now, if you ever have felt slightly nervous going through customs or going through passport control, or worried about whether you're going to get your visa in time or what questions they're going to be asking you, this show is for you. It's all about how you manage immigration anxiety for yourself and indeed for the people that you are relocating. Fascinating show we've got for you next week. Of course, every week we like to share a little bit of breaking news. What has been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility over the last 7 days? Well, let's find out. Let's find out who's got a new job, who's been promoted, and if you're looking, let's find out what jobs are out there right here, right now. So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who's been promoted. Congratulations to everyone who's got a new job. And if you're out there looking, well, best of luck in your job search. And there's loads of jobs out there, and we've posted the ones we know about. If you've got a job, a role that you want filled, let us know and we will try and give it the publicity it deserves. And if you've had a bit of personal news, you've had a promotion, you've had and you've got a new job, or you're retiring, whatever it is that you want to share with the industry, let us know and we will do whatever we can to promote it. Meanwhile, we're now going to switch to Fragamon's update with the wonderful Charlotte Wills. Our regular guest, Julie Onslow-Cole, is actually tied up in important meetings in Vietnam, even as we speak. But her wonderful stand-in for the day is the tremendous Charlotte Wills. So you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage Fragamon's Charlotte Wills. Charlotte, it's so good to see you.
Hi, Brian. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, live from the Fragment offices in London.
Yes, it's a busy Wednesday here today, here in Fragment HQ in London.
Wow, and we can see all your colleagues wandering around. It's fantastic. So, what are you going to talk to us about today?
So today, Brian, we are talking about workforce planning. Now, I know this is one of those concepts that probably many people listening today will have heard about or have read about quite a lot. And it always sounds really cool, right? It sounds like it would be really useful. And I think with the best of intentions, we all take it back to our desks, we add it to our to-do list, and then, well, we kind of struggle with actually what does it mean? But today we are going to drill down into exactly what that means. And I think really it's essentially having the right people with the right skills in the right places at the right time. And that last one is really, really crucial, because what that might look like today for your organization may be completely different to what it might look like in 12 months' time or in 5 years' time. And so what we're seeing at Fragment is for a lot of our organizations to stay competitive, employers need to act faster, they need to think smarter, and they need to anticipate the risk. And there's obviously a lot of risk around at the moment, given the mobility landscape. And so this workforce intelligence, which is how we refer to it here at Fragment, so in practice, what does that look like? So we know many people on the call today are operating in very competitive and diverse and evolving markets. And so you need to know where that talent is now and where that's going to be in the next few years. And as I said, it's harder now more than ever because of many things, including, of course, the geopolitical landscape and the impact of tariffs and trade patterns and skills pipelines and all those things that Julia talks about so often and so well. So if you have a skill shortage, or you're part of M&A, or your business leaders are asking you, how can I reduce cost? Or if you're moving into a new market, any of those things, the next couple of minutes may be for you, because workforce planning could be really useful. And if you engage in the workforce planning, so it can really help you understand where the supply of key skills are that you need, and where that might be growing and where in the world that might be shrinking. And you can assess competitiveness for roles in the market, and you can see how AI is reshaping the supply and demand of the roles that you need. And I know that's going to be a very hot topic of the session today. And if you bring that back to an immigration perspective, so what it means is, instead of us saying, this is how long the visa is going to take and here's how much it costs, actually now what we're saying is, so here's how difficult it is to fill that particular role that you have from an immigration and talent availability perspective. Here's how competitive the market is wherever it is in the world you're looking. And here's where you might face friction, or here's where the opportunities are. And of course, there's a lot of opportunities, but also challenges. So now at the moment, we're looking at the pharmaceutical strides in the US, or the EV pivots in Europe, and semiconductors in Asia. And when we look every day at the headlines in the FT or in Reuters or in the Wall Street Journal, there's always stories about the global trade and the global tariffs. And I think that's really reshaping how a lot of companies are thinking about their people. And of course, when we're talking about people, it puts global mobility and HR teams right at the center of that strategic decision-making once again. So the trade and that tariff news is about where to hire, how to reskill, who to move, and when to act. So I guess it's joining the dots between immigration, between talent, and between risk, and how that can really help your strategy as a business. And we're seeing a few different examples. So recently we helped a multinational client trying to relocate some tech talent out of China somewhere else in the region. What does that look like in terms of talent availability or the immigration processes? Of course, what is that best route? This week, the US and Japan trade deal, what that can mean for companies in pharma or auto or semiconductor, focuses again on the skills and the people and when and where you can move them and how difficult that's going to be. So I think really it's about helping the organizations to build agile and really resilient future-ready workforces. And it's fascinating, right? It's such an exciting part of what is taking up a lot of our time at Fragment at the moment. And I get to work, of course, alongside amazing people like Julia and Raj Mann, who I know was a guest recently, and Will Bird and Harry Goldstraw and so many more. So that is what is keeping us busy now more than ever here at Fragment.
It's so fascinating, and it really gives a chance for mobility and immigration to become strategic, because it's not just about processing that visa or dealing with that application. It's all about actually the workforce planning, and what hopefully we're trying to get across, I know it's what you and Julia and the others are trying to get across, is the fact we need to step up, look at the macro picture, what's going on in the world, and then think in advance about how that might actually drill down to what the changes are going to be happening on a day-to-day, minute-by-minute basis for us in the real world.
Exactly that.
So thank you so much for that update. Really, really helpful, Charlotte. Thank you for coming on the show. We're going to now move on. We're going to move from immigration to tax. We have backstage the tremendous Julie Barron from Vialta Partners. So you know how it works. Let's say a big, big thank you to Charlotte and a big welcome to Julie by hitting that heart button, hitting that like button, and hitting that applause button. Julie.
Hello, hey, Brian.
See you. So we're talking big, beautiful, the big, beautiful bill. That's not actually called that anymore. So,
yes, but we like to call it the one big, beautiful bill.
Absolutely. So what's news? Tell us all
about it. So I thought it just goes through some highlights and what it really means for mobility managers and what they should be thinking about in regards to the one big, beautiful bill. And we have done a webcast, and on the webcast, we got more questions. Usually we get 15, 20 questions per webcast. We got 100 questions on this webcast. And so many of them were around the overtime deduction. So I'm going to focus on just a few of the different things in the bill, but really focus on the ones where people really had questions. So one of the things you have to look at in this bill is that some of the new provisions are effective for 2025, some for 2026, and some for beyond. So when we're talking about all these different things, it's super important to look at the timing. But two of the big highlights in the big, beautiful bill is there is now a deduction on people's tax returns for overtime earned and for tips. And I think a lot of our mobility professionals don't get tips. So I'm going to focus on overtime, but there's now a deduction that
that's a good point. I think mobility professionals should get tips. I think we need.
I think I should get tips for sure.
I mean, that's a really great bit of tax advice you gave. Here's a couple of bucks for you.
I did have someone send me a case of wine once. So that was a really good tip, actually, Brian. I really appreciated that. But for the overtime section, you can now deduct up to $25,000 of overtime on an individual's tax return. And that rule is retroactive to January 1st. So a lot of the questions we got from employers around what do we do now that we've already paid 6 months of overtime and now everybody can take a tax deduction for it. And the IRS has said that employers are going to have to specifically identify on a W-2 how much overtime there was. So thankfully, the IRS has recently come out and said, hey, we're going to have some transitional rules for 2025 because we know this is almost going to be impossible. So we'll see what happens in the final guidance that they provide, but there will be more guidance coming out about that. One of the other questions we got about overtime was, is it, if someone, let's say, gets paid time and a half, is it the full time and a half that they get to deduct, or just the half that is the additional pay that they're getting because it's overtime. And the rules are that it is just the half. So just the extra pay that you're getting because it is overtime above your normal hourly rate. So that is one of the limitations. But on the mobility front, oh, go ahead.
I don't think people would naturally think that when they think,
no.
I think they're getting paid for the extra hour they're working, not just the bit that's over
right. Right. It's over your normal hourly rate, if you will. Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
But one thing the mobility professionals need to do is look at their equalization policies, because there is an income limit on this deduction. So what that means is that you really have to say, okay, it is possible that someone would get this on a hypothetical basis, but with all of the allowances would not be allowed this deduction on their tax return. So it could cost you a lot of money because it's not a deduction on the actual return, but the individuals will definitely want that on a hypothetical basis. So something to look at in your equalization policies. Also something to look at as far as your hypothetical tax deductions, because you shouldn't be deducting hypothetical tax from individuals who are eligible for this deduction and under that $25,000. So you've got to really rejig your hypothetical tax and also look at your policy. The other big topic in the One Big Beautiful Bill for individuals was the SALT deduction. So deduction for state and local tax, which had been capped previously at $10,000. We've now gone up to $40,000 of a cap. So a big jump from 10 to 40. However, there's an income limit, unfortunately, on that SALT deduction. So you need to look at your policies for that and your hypothetical tax deductions for that too, because people who are now eligible for a $40,000 deduction instead of 10 are really going to want to get that deduction. So another thing to look at from the One Big Beautiful Bill for your U.S. outbounds as well as your U.S. inbounds. The other one is car interest. So we've gotten lots of questions now at car interest. So if you have a car loan, you can deduct the interest on your car loan if the car was finally assembled in the United States. The question we've been getting a lot is that for new cars, used cars, what kind of cars? Well, it's only for passenger vehicles for personal use that are new, and they are bought in 2025 and beyond. So another thing to look at is this nice deduction for car loan interest, which is $10,000. I always said if you're paying $10,000 of interest on a car every year, that's a pretty nice car. If your interest rate, let's say, is 7%, you've got a pretty
that's $10,000 of interest, not of loan.
Of interest.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can deduct that on your tax return now. Pretty nice benefit.
That's like $100,000 car or something.
At least, yeah, I'd say so. It's $100,000 at 10%. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, so pretty generous deduction, but only for US made cars.
So that's really going to change the market, isn't it? I mean, that's going to
I think so. And well, on the other part of it in the One Big Beautiful Bill is that they took away a lot of the credits for electric vehicles. So you're not going to get a credit for your Tesla anymore, but you might get your credit for your expensive, let's say, Lincoln Navigator that was made in the United States. So it'll change the car market for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Julie. I mean, that's an amazing update. A lot of interesting things going to go on there. We're now moving on to our Benivo update, and we're going to welcome to our stage our wonderful producer, Tali Gorin, who's going to be telling us about some of the big changes that have happened this week and indeed are coming on the rest of this week as well in terms of the launch of Benivo MI. And just to tell people a bit about it, we're going to run a short video and then Tali can tell us more about it in detail. So everybody, you know how it works. Let's thank Julie Baron by hitting the heart button, hitting the like button, hitting the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage our wonderful producer, Tali Gorin.
MI, where AI meets mobility. Are you struggling with endless employee queries? There's MI for that. Do you need a quick response to leadership on the ROI of mobility? There's MI for that. Is policy confusion turning into escalations? There's MI for that. Do you need a fast estimate of your immigration visa timeline? There's MI for that. You're not an IT expert. You're not an AI expert. You're a human mobility expert. MI, where AI meets mobility. The new way of working for mobility professionals. There's MI for that, only from Benivo.
Tali, we've just changed the world.
There's definitely MI for that. Oh my God.
for that. So tell us
It
about
was
it.
so exciting yesterday. So yesterday was the big reveal. Nitzan was there
I
to
was
show
there.
everyone.
I was there. It was amazing. There was over.
It was so
200
exciting.
volunteers.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
so much-
it's amazing. So much interest in this thing, and you know, it makes sense. We all hear about AI all the time, but there's so many scary things about it, and so many things that are holding us back. So you know, I was thinking I wanted to first use these 5 minutes that you're giving me here to just explain first what is MI. So you know, the simplest way to explain it, you know, and I think I really like when Nitzan explained that, is that it's just like, you know, you have your application store on your phone. So you have app for everything, right? You have app for your email, you have app for your conversations, for your news. So now for mobility, there's MI for that. So you actually have, the MI is a platform with many agent for each thing that you need. So what do you need? You need to answer an employee. There's MI for that. You need to assess your immigration situation. There's MI for that. Anything that you need news about global mobility, there's an MI agent for that. So it's all very specific.
I saw one of them where it pulls it together. You asked a question about immigration, and then the agent said to you, do you want to know the tax and social security too?
Of course, it's clever. It can touch everything. You know, and you know what? You can also ask me, you know, maybe there's ChatGPT for that. And I would say, you know what? Yes, technically, yes. And I've been using ChatGPT a lot, but let me tell you what the difference is. If you want to use ChatGPT, what do you need to do? First, you have to upload your policies, right? You want to talk to your policies, you have to upload your policies. Good luck with getting permission for that. If you want to ask about an employee, you have to upload their details with all their PII and everything. Well, good luck with that. And you need, if you want analytics, you have to upload all your Google Sheets. Well, I wouldn't do that with the ChatGPT. Okay?
Well, the other thing with ChatGPT is that what I find with it, and I do use it a lot, what I find with it is that it depends on how good the question is.
That's true.
You know, you have to become a prompt engineer.
That's true. That's true. And this is how these MIs are built. They have all your policy already there. They have all the PII hidden, so there's no risk of leakage. And they're trained with the right prompts, so they can lead you. You know, I really like looking at reports, but I don't always know what kind of questions to ask. So I'm going to we have Alina who's in charge of reporting. So I go to her and I ask her, okay, how can I read this report? I don't need her anymore. Now I have my MI for that, and I can just ask it about the question. You know, you used a really good term. You were talking about talking to the data, the conversation with the data. This is exactly the thing. Now you can actually.
To me, the secret, and we all use ChatGPT now. The key issue with the word ChatGPT is the word chat. That you can have a conversation with it, and that's what this is doing with data. So you can interrogate your data that you've got, and you can say to it, whatever. How many people did I move last month? And then you say to it, of those, how many were whatever, this nationality or male or female, or how many were under this policy or whatever. You just keep on asking it questions and it just answers the questions.
But without the hassle of learning prompt engineering, which now you have huge courses for doing good prompt engineering. You don't need that. You don't need to be worried about PII. You don't need to be worried about sharing all your data online. So yes, definitely. There's MI for that. I don't want to take a lot of time because Suresh is already in the green room waiting. Just want to say I'm going to share a link because we already had yesterday's reveal, but we're going to have 2 more sessions tomorrow. It's not going to be recorded, so this is your chance to see it. And I'm going to tell you that actually there's an interesting promotion running now that Benivo is actually giving 10 companies that will register a whole free run of the MI agents. So you can implement that until the end of the year, including the cost estimate for the companies that are interested in joining that. And you don't need to be, I mean, for our clients, they just get it. But if you're not a client, that's a really good chance. And to get that, just join the session tomorrow. And
so there's two sessions tomorrow. and they're available obviously to, sorry to say this to all the service providers on the call, but they are for corporates only. And what time are those 2 sessions?
So I'm going to share the link. It's there's one that is during noon UK time. There's one that is in the night, so it's more convenient for people in the US. And yes, Ferdinand, you've been there, so it was really good to see you. Yeah.
And there's other stuff in there. There's a digital human as well. I mean, there's some cool stuff.
And actually, Ferdinand is reminding the real-time reports, because that's true also. So, you know, someone in the session asked about ROI and how do we know if people are even using this thing? And you have reports, or everything that is happening with these MIs is recorded, is reported, and you can later have reports for your management and to show how much usage has been with this thing and how much you're using AI. So it's all embedded in it. Really exciting, really exciting.
Cool, it is.
So I'll be sharing, and once I go back to the green room, I'm going to share the link to this.
You share that link now. We're then going to move on, and I'm very, very excited. We've got Suresh Balan, and we've got Pankaj Bhatia talking to us about HCL and their amazing program, and it's an amazing company. So everybody, let's say thank you to Tali, and we're going to bring on stage Pankaj and Suresh. Hi. Oops, we've got Tali still on stage, and we're having a problem with Suresh's picture. I'm going to move Suresh backstage for the moment, and hopefully Tali can help sort that out. Pankaj, let's just start with you. Tell us a bit about the relationship between Benivo and HCL, and then we'll bring back Suresh on stage in a moment.
Right. So again, we'll have Suresh anyway talk about HCL as an organization amongst the top 5, or I would say even top 3 organizations, IT organizations within India, globally, you know, very large deployments to all parts of the world, you know, specifically, you know, the Americas, which is the US, Canada, the Asia Pacific region, Europe. So they have deployments all around. And we've been having this relationship now, I would say, for around 3-4 years. And again, it's been a great partnership, having kind of, you know, done so much of, I would say, value addition that we've kind of implemented, and real partnership, which is, been very successful.
And Suresh, I know we had a couple of technical gremlins in the back there, but we have you with us, and it's very, very good to see you. So Suresh, tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get into global mobility? What's your background?
Thanks, Brian, Pankaj. Thanks for having me. In fact, I'm with mobility industry for close to 2 decades now, a little over 2 decades. Way back started as a campus recruit with Deloitte in Hyderabad. Worked for Deloitte for a couple of years. Thereafter moved to a larger organization, which is Infosys. Worked with them. A brief stint with Tata, and thereafter now close to 10 years with HCL. You know, all the way started from, you know, a mere paperwork in terms of filing, following up, coordination, paperwork, all the way, you know, scratch the surface from start to, you know, in terms of employee coordination. I have seen mobility from paper to digitization and out to AI in the last two decades. So yeah, it's a huge transformation.
It's amazing how mobility has changed. I mean, HCL Tech is obviously at the forefront of the whole technology and AI revolution that we're going. But for those people who don't know HCL Tech, tell us a bit about the company, its history, how many employees it's got, the countries it operates in, just to give people a flavor for the company.
Yeah, HCL Tech started before the 1980s as a garage startup based out of Delhi, and with about 7 employees.
7.
Now, HCL operates in about 62 countries. Major operations in India, major operations in the US, and a couple of the major countries like Australia, UK, Singapore, Sweden, and a couple of other countries. But essentially, we have about 25,000 employees, servicing on application development, AI, engineering services, infrastructure, network, cloud computing, and a couple of GCC capabilities.
Wow. So you went from 7 employees to nearly 250,000, 220, 230,000.
Absolutely. It grew from 7 to 250,000 in the last 49 years.
That is just extraordinary.
Yeah.
And how many people are mobile? I mean, how many people touch mobility one way or another within the organization?
We do have in about close to 10,000, around 12,000 employees moving across the globe, the region.
Wow.
Of course, the numbers are coming down for various microeconomic situation, but at a given time, we have around 10-12K employees moving across location globally.
So that must be a huge job for you and your team to with 12,000 moves, 10 to 12,000 moves a year.
What began as at least from the mobility standpoint, people mobility existed with HCL as an organization 30-40 years back, right? What began as a transactional function now, focused mostly on visa filing and logistics, has now evolved into a core part of the people strategy now. Right? Today, it's no longer just about moving talent from one location to another. It's about making sure we are ready globally, aligning with the business needs, and a larger extent managing compliance while still scaling effectively. So, we do have a very strong and robust program, global mobility program, that's both very structured and to a larger extent system driven. We do have absolute right touch of local expertise to ensure there is smooth, consistent support wherever our people go. When I talk about mobility with HCL, it's a centralized operating basically out of India, which is our base of operations, spread across all of our Indian offices, which help us, to an extent, maintain consistency across the board with well-defined processes, very minimal variation, and definitely a strong grip of compliance.
So you've got,
but
you
having
have
said that,
rigid processes. I get that. And give me an idea of the flavor of the team. I mean, how many people are in mobility looking after these 10 to 12,000 people?
We have, close to a couple of hundreds, across the board. It manages transfers, which manages repatriation, manages tax, relocation, and thereafter immigration.
In
couple
different
of hundreds across the board.
Yeah. Wow. And which are the main locations where you're moving people to and from?
We have top 7-8 countries, basically US, UK, Sweden, Singapore, Australia. Now Middle East is picking up, right? Middle East is picking, Malaysia is picking up. We also have locations which is actually growing up. For instance, Costa Rica, Jamaica, Portugal, Morocco. These are the countries which we are focusing on. In fact, our Vietnam practices grew almost 3 times in the last 4 years. So it is a location wherein we do a risk averse in terms of our people capability and things like that, other than the major and larger location.
Interesting. I mean, you mentioned Vietnam. In fact, we're going to be talking about Vietnam on the show next week with an update from Julia. I mean, obviously a lot going on there. But what I do want to ask you is, I know that you moved a while ago and you are a Benivo client, and many thanks for that. I'd like to get a feeling of what sort of prompted, what were the challenges that you were facing before you had a tech platform like Benivo's? What were the challenges that were promoting you to that were prompting you rather to look for a new digital solution for destination support?
In the context of large scale talent mobility, especially with organizations like us, in terms of we move people, significantly in terms of numbers, and the that we have, we have seen a growing need to reimagine how we support employees during relocation.
Suresh, I'm going to have to interrupt you. Something is happening with your sound. I don't know what's happening.
How is it now?
Yeah, no, we're getting interference for some reason. Let me just, if Tali will just liaise with you on that for a moment. I'm going to bring Pankaj in, and then hopefully we'll come back to you, and we've sorted out the sound problem that we've suddenly got there. So Pankaj, maybe you can just tell us a bit of what you've seen. What were the issues that prompted HCL to look at a digital solution? And then we'll just try Suresh in a moment again.
Sure. And Brian, I would say, while we will talk about HCL as an example, but it's a very common issue which I will talk through. Is some very common issues that I'll kind of talk through that we've seen specifically. I think I'd like to kind of quote from a study that we did with the London Business School. So Benivo and London Business School actually did a study, a white paper, which was titled "The True Cost of IT Engineer Relocation." And what we kind of, and by the way, folks who may be interested in downloading the report, that is available on our website free of cost. So feel free to log in there. So what came out of that research paper was that there is a significant loss of productivity when the employees are relocating. And this study, Brian, was more focused on the Indian IT engineers who were relocating. They were spending a substantial amount of time as part of the relocation process. On an average, it was like 90 hours that each employee was spending as part of the relocation process within the first few weeks of their move. And out of that, nearly 70 hours were being spent, which were actually productive. So these were time which the employees were having to devote during their working hours. So this resulted in a significant kind of loss of productivity of approximately 2 weeks of employees' earning potential. If we were to quantify that, it's around $70,000 at a very, very lower rate, etc., etc. So
let me bring Suresh back into the conversation, because I think the sound is okay now, and I've got my fingers very firmly crossed. So Suresh, from your perspective, what was it that prompted you to look for a digital solution?
Yeah, I was just saying, in the context of large-scale talent mobility, especially it's a like kind of organization which has significant travel volume. We have seen a growing need to reimagine how we support employees during relocation. When traditionally destination services were high touch and localized, but we felt it is not always scalable or in fact uniformly available. So we thought, what is next for us? Because we have to, of course, give some services to employee, and we are also in the line of going on a digital first approach comes into play. The idea was absolutely not fully replace the personal support, but rather to ensure no employee goes unsupported during their move. So especially for a short term or a junior level assignments where full scale destination services may not be feasible. So detailed relocation tool like Benivo, we have seen their accessibility, the consistency, and also self-service capabilities. Whether it is understanding housing option, schooling option, getting local compliance guidances, banking, or anything for that matter when an employee needed to move and start in the new city, which we felt is absolutely stunning in terms of having that is better than nothing. So that's when we thought we will definitely onboard, so that, in a sense, adopting a digital platform was about, to ensure that we have a safety net, ensuring that every employee, regardless of role or location, has access to at least a foundation level support. It reflects our intent to some extent, the balancing scale with some amount of empathy, and of course improving the relocation experience through practical and scalable solution. That's when we thought we have to have something rather than having a destination provider for every location, which for this organization absolutely not cost feasible. That's the point that we have approached Benivo, and thereafter we onboarded.
Yeah, because Indian tech companies tend not to have very sort of, what do you call it? They tend to have quite economic, quite light packages. They're not sort of, maybe the full fat packages you'd find traditionally in, say, I don't know, pharma or banking or something. So that, because you are moving so many people at scale. I mean, the platform, of course, has got two sides to it. It's got the employee side and it's got the management reporting side. They're both clearly vital, but from your perspective, what was the issue that was that you felt was the more important side of it?
The issue, first and foremost, we have from this kind of retail platform, we have round-the-clock assistance, right? In helping employees access support when they need it. It's in their own time zones, even outside in traditional working hours.
Yeah.
More importantly, it is about hyper-local content. From guidance on finding housing, banking, whatever I just said, all tailored to the city or a country that employee is relocating to. The platform which I've seen is kind of on demand, absolutely self-navigable support, helping us meeting the varying needs of our relocating employees without even being dependent upon solely on a physical infrastructure or even one-to-one interaction. It doesn't replace, I'm sure it doesn't replace human empathy, but it certainly extends some amount of reach.
Yeah, well, that's a great point, because sometimes people say to me, oh, it's a question of a white glove service or a tech service. And my standard answer is it's not an or discussion, it's an and discussion, that people actually should be able to have both. I mean, it's up to the company at what level and who is going to get both. But, the most senior people still want the tech platform, even if they get white glove as well. That it's, both should be on offer within the platform. Pankaj, let me bring you into the conversation. I mean, obviously you've worked with HCL Tech for quite a while now, and you're a legend of the mobility industry, especially, in your region and in Bangalore. But why do you tell us a bit about the relationship between Benivo and HCL Tech, and tell us, from Benivo's side of the story?
Right. I think the most important thing was the partnership, right? We did not have everything from day one. The intent was to do kind of a phased implementation, understand the requirements from HCL, understand what are their priority geographies, etc., which are there, what are the key challenges and pain areas that they've had. So kind of working hand in hand with the HCL team, like I said, implementing things in a phased manner. The ongoing partnership as well, with weekly and monthly and quarterly business reviews that we have with Suresh and his team. Always trying to see which are the areas where we can kind of improve. And then in addition, like Suresh mentioned, right, I think some of the geographies, right? I think he talked about Vietnam, Puerto Rico, etc., as well. So making sure that we are aligning to their priorities. We understand where they are going, where is their business going, right? So I would say that we see ourselves as an extension to Suresh's team, right? Working hand in hand, working with him and his team to support, how they can better support the business, etc. as well. I think the critical piece has been the employee experience, which Suresh mentioned. I think that was something which was the key driver from their side. So Suresh did talk about the local content, which was very, very specific, which was there. In fact, one of the things that I would like to call out over here is that as part of what we offer, as part of what Benivo offers, we have the content which is put together by our team, but also what we have is social insights, which is the information which are shared by other HCL employees who've relocated in the past. What has been their experience? What went well with their accommodation sourcing or challenges, etc., which were there? And if I was to just give a very rough number, Brian, the number of social insights that we've received from the HCL employees is over 10,000. So imagine getting over 10,000 insights from the employees of HCL, which we are able to then use, share with the employees. Of course, though we do not publish the names of the specific employees, but imagine the value that we kind of bring on, right? Because typically that is what happens in the relocation space. We tend to reach out to our friends, families, right? And you see what we are kind of able to do there.
So important. I'm so glad you raised that, because what I find is that anybody relocating has only ever actually got one question, and that one question is, what do people like me do? People like me who are moving at my level, my grade, from this location to that location, what do we do? Because for me, it might well be for the first time, but it's not the first time that move has happened. Lots of people have been down the path, and it might be as simple as, I'm moving to New York City. Who shall I open a bank account with? Which is a really good bank account? Or people like me, with these interests, this background, what's a good area of the city to live in? What area should I avoid? And the best way of getting that is by finding out what other people have done in the same company before. I mean, Suresh, has that been your experience?
Yes, absolutely. I think this insights is helping us in terms of finding out the right essence from employee in terms of what is good and what is bad. Number one, we also have seen clear improvement in how employees feel. They feel more in control when they have easy to use information instead of waiting for updates from somebody who they have contact in the country. That essentially helps them plan better, to some extent settle them faster. So like Pankaj said, there is absolutely good feedback, and they think that there is something for them from the HCL community itself. It's coming from within the tool. So that is one of the best insight that employee has in the current context of digital relocation.
Yeah, and it's extraordinary. There's been over 10,000 insights so far. I mean, that's amazing. And what's that meant in practice? What are the sort of the benefits or the outcomes that you've seen so far from this, for on a real everyday sort of basis?
One of the big benefit we have seen, Brian, is that it's better efficiency for sure. With tools like self-service access in local info, step-by-step guidance. Like I just I mentioned, there is a hyper local content which talks about which IT team to contact, which HR to contact, who is a person you should reaching out. Although the information exists within our organization, it is a sea of information. But when I bring that particular hyper local information to the employee, it is one-stop shop. So we have been able to support employees faster, especially during the early and stressful stages of their move. So that's very important because like I said, HCL is 25,000 employees. The information internally is actually, I'm not saying it does not exist. It exists, but it's a sea of information, which is difficult for an employee to navigate. But with this tool, for a particular country, particular city, particular MSA, they have a little more than hyper local content they have. So I'm just repeating the same word because it is what it is.
Okay. And how does this partnership between HCL and Benivo, how does it support your broader goals around things like, I don't know, compliance or cost efficiency or digital transformation? How's it supporting the broader HCL goals?
Couple of points. One, from a compliance point of view, this tool also help us, clear view of what's happening and make sure, local rules like housing, registration, or banking are followed properly in every country. Overall, moving to detailed support for relocation has helped us save time for sure, improve the employee experience, and stay on track with the rules. When I say financially, do we have any? I can't really quantify that number because previous to Benivo, we never used a relocation provider, which is local destination provider. We have never used. So in that context, I may not be able to quantify, but of course, there are tangible and intangible benefits that we brought on the board.
Okay. And Pankaj, from your perspective, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think just adding on to what Suresh was mentioning, I think on the compliance side, while he did talk about the banking and other things, etc., a couple of other things that we do have, which we see a lot of utilization is, for example, things like applying the social security numbers, etc. Right. So I think that's perhaps one of the first things that you need to do when you land in any particular country to get onto the payroll, etc. Right. So that particular information which is up to date in terms of what the employees need to do, where do they need to go, how long before they should be applying for. So, for example, if someone is moving from India to US, while ideally they would want to apply for a social security number as soon as they land, that's not the right approach, because again, it takes time for the records of the social security authorities to get updated. So typically it may be a week, 10 days before they should actually, after landing, that they should do that. So even to that level of detail, Brian, there is the information which is being provided. Like Suresh mentioned, the content is in bite-size buy-side content which is available. So very easy to read, very easy to digest, etc. as well. Another thing, I know we did talk about the employee experience, but we did not quantify that. But let me actually quantify that based on the customer satisfaction scores that we've been seeing from quarter to quarter. So on an average, we are somewhere like around 8.5 out of 10, which I would say is a very, very good score. If for an employee who's actually relocating, because typically we know, that's kind of a very stressful period. It's a very challenging period, etc. And for them to actually rate what they get out of the platform, which is like 8.5, sometimes even more, I think is very, very good. Having said that, we do also work on areas of improvement. So like I said, if there are low scores which are there below a certain threshold, basically our team actually evaluates why the scores are low. We work on those action items, etc., and so on and so forth. And that's where I mentioned about the ongoing partnership, etc., as well. The transparency that we have with the HCL team, even on these matters.
Okay. The other question I want to ask is, the world is changing. We've talked about AI, we've talked about MI, we're talking about digital humans, all sorts of things that are happening almost as we speak. What does the future hold for HCL Tech and Benivo and that partnership? Where do we think that might be going in terms of greater use of technology, etc.? I mean, Suresh, what's on your hit list of things you would like to roll out?
As we look ahead of the future of mobility and employee experience in particular, it is clear that AI will make a big difference. I don't want to talk about AI and its benefits. We all know, we talk on a daily basis. But for mobility space, I am expecting or anticipating it can help us make a decision faster, personalized support better, and also improve how quickly that we get things done. The big revelation yesterday, I'm truly excited to see the new tool by Benivo and the possibilities it brings. We talked about insights. Pankaj talked about insights, wherein I'm expecting that insights is going into MI. Thereafter, me asking a question that the MI is giving me response specific to HCL's context. I'm sure maybe on the cards it's already there. So the features and use cases shared are for sure promising, Brian. And with tools like this, especially MI, I think we have a real chance to make the relocation journey smarter, quicker, and more seamless for everyone.
And Pankaj, from your perspective, where do you think it's going?
I would split it up, Brian, in two parts. One, like Suresh mentioned, is the employee experience, right? So again, as part of the MI launch that we've had, right, we talked about the briefings which are there, which I see as a real value add. The significant reduction in the time which the teams need to spend, right, with for example, chatbots, etc., which are available, which can answer the employee's question instantaneously, very, very correctly at any point of time, the access, etc. I think that's something which is going to and is already actually phenomenally changing the employee experience. On the mobility teams, side, again, like we've kind of discussed, the ability to get information. And Brian, I know you and Tally were talking about the show yesterday as well, right? The regulations are not getting any easier. The whether we are talking about immigration, tax, social security, not everyone would actually be able to kind of provide a complete background, complete information. So what MI is enabling us to do is to look at it in a very holistic manner. Now, you don't need to be, I would say, an immigration or a tax specialist. Again, I think, you are able to leverage AI to get the right answers. You are able to get quick answers, etc. as well, including of locations which may be challenging, where perhaps you may not have deployments, right? And like Suresh mentioned, if you're having new countries kind of coming up, you don't necessarily need to wait and research on things, etc. A lot of that information can be available at your fingertips, etc. Right? So
it is amazing. I mean, there is nobody in the world who is smarter than what AI is doing. If you think about it, the AI that is out there that we've launched, or that others, that is being developed generally, knows every word of every tax code, every word of every immigration social security code. Not only that, it knows your policy if it's trained on it. And most of us, we think we know our policy, but do we actually really know every word of the policy? And not only that, but if the employee wants to have the conversation in any one of 100 or so different languages, he or she can do so. And it can then measure the tone of it, and analyze it, and transcript it, and bullet point it, and do actions. I mean, this is stuff that none of us can do. So what we do need to do is to work smarter and use these tools as, another phrase we use at Benivo is, use these tools as our superpowers. We've got just a couple of minutes left. I want to leave just one last question, Suresh, as we wind up the show, which is, you run, and much kudos to you, you run a very large program. What advice would you give? And I'm looking for a very short answer on this, unfortunately. We're running out of time, Suresh. What advice would you give to other people running large global teams and looking to digitize their solutions?
My approach or my advice has always been to create systems that scale without losing the human touch. Yeah. We have to be faster. We cannot wait for a right tool to come for the organization. We have to be faster in terms of implementing whatever smart tools, AI tools, RPA, bit bots that we have to implement. That's the take that I always carry. Because it's not only us that we think about AI. There are government organizations like as we speak, USCIS, as we speak, a couple of other governments do implement a lot of AI modalities within their organization and countries. So having said that, we have to be faster, and let's not wait for something which is suitable for to come.
Absolutely. Well, we are pretty much running out of time. I'm going to bring back onto stage our guest from Fragaman, Charlotte, our producer Tally. Julie had to leave us, but the rest of the gang is around. This has been a fascinating show. The AI stuff is amazing, the MI stuff, and we're going to be doing reveals about that tomorrow for anybody on the corporate side who's interested. And it is well worth watching. Thoroughly recommend people do so. And then next week we are back for our last Benivo, the view from the top for the year. For the summer, until we go on vacation, and that's going to be how managing immigration anxiety, and that is a really interesting subject. I think maybe it's the first time anyone has actually covered that subject. It's almost like the psychology of managing the visa process. So it's going to be a fascinating.
I think you coined the term immigration anxiety. I love it.
Absolutely, I know. I should have trademarked it. But there we go. I'm sure it'll be on the conference circuit now. We've talked about it first. Anyway, we are out of time. It's been a fascinating time. So all that really remains is, and we've lost Suresh's connection again, sadly, but we are out of time, everybody. Have a great week, and we will see you again this time next week. Take care, everybody, and have a great week. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.